We live in the 4.0 industry, interacting with the virtual world, but we must not be virtual in the issue of food security. This is always and forever a very important issue for all countries, especially in the context of political instability, non-traditional security, and epidemics occurred in the world. In the international situation and the climate change, food security is not only an immediate problem, but also a long-term strategic issue. Food is an essential commodity and stable demand under any circumstances. The recent incident when the case of COVID-19 infection were introduced, the market is chaotic, especially when people buy food, instant noodles, and at that time, and the food companies have to ensure the food supply and open the door to sell food until 11 p.m. In that situation, if there is no source, how can it be guaranteed? Therefore, stocking food, being stable under all conditions is very important.
Do you know how many people are there in the world today? For most of human history, our population increase has been slow and steady. But in the last 120 years, it has accelerated from 1.5 to more than 7 billion. Around 1 billion people are chronically hungry. It is predicted that by the end of this century, we will become person number 11 billion. So the question is that, if we can provide enough food, can we do it in ways that are environmentally responsible and whether safe and nutritious food will be distributed fairly? What we are talking about here is called food security. Okay, so let's define it. According to the United Nations, food security exists when all people and all towns have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food that meets their food preferences and dietary needs for an active and healthy life. There are 4 dimensions of food security: availability, access, utilization, and stability.
How about Vietnam achievement? Vietnam, known as a top world rice exporter, ranked 11 out of 23 economies in Asia Pacific and 4 in Southeast Asia in the latest Food Security Index. The country scored an overall 16.3 out of 100 points, placing it at 63rd among 113 countries and territories, while addition it to the good performance category. According to the report released by Economist Intelligence Units and Division of UK-based Economist Group, Vietnam performed best in availability at 48, which measure factors like food supply accuracy, agricultural research and development. The report said Vietnam ranked 63rd in affordability, which include presence and quality of food safety net programs, access to financing for farmers, changing average food cost, and the proportion of population under the global poverty line.
Here are 2 environmental factors that can cause serious impact on food security: extreme weather and pests that can attack crops. The first one is extreme weather events such as droughts, floods, and tropical storms. Drought is projected to increase in intensity, frequency, and duration. Drought results in agricultural loss, reduction in water quality and availability, and is a major driver of global food insecurity. Droughts are especially devastating in arid and semi-arid areas, reducing the quality and productivity of crop use and livestock. In March 2020, Mekong Delta serious drought and saltwater intrusion in rivers put great pressure on Vietnam's agriculture and aquaculture hub. According to the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, drought and salinity have affected 20,000 hectares of crops. Heavy rainfall and flooding. While uncertain, it appears that there will be more heavy rainfall events as the climate warms. Heavy rainfall leading to flooding can destroy entire crops, over wide areas, and devastate food store assets such as farming equipment and agricultural land. 2020 Central Vietnam flooding damaged agricultural production. Aggressive rainfalls from landslide in mountainous regions, destroying its path and flushing out low-lying areas. Landslides strip the land of natural resource while destroying crops and killing livestock. Damage to dams and cause similar problems, which burden farmers with additional costs. This also requires extra labor to harvest new crops. The second one factors is new pests and pathogens attack crops. Plant disease and pests are considered important cause of crop loss and also a threat to the food supply. In 2019, the fall an armyworm has hit Vietnam and caused serious damage to maize crops in recent months, after leading to the loss of billions of dollars in sub-Saharan country and Asian country. Like an army, each mature worm can eat a corn bud in a few days, then keep munching the whole plant. It can pretend to be dead when touched and change body color based on the living environment. According to the Ministry Department of Plant Protection, by mid-July, 15,000 hectares of maize nationwide have been affected.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are many factors that affect on the food security. Firstly, environmental pollution. The pollution of living environment, also known as the self-destruction process, caused by the pollution and human activities, cause fluctuation in public opinion. This problem is increasingly serious, directly threatening sustainable socio-economic development. To the environmental security of present and future generations, environmental population include three main categories: the soil pollution, water pollution, and air pollution. All the three types of them are many times existing the permitted standards in big city, industrial zones, and farm villages. According to the monitoring report of the Science, Technology and Environment Committee of the National Assembly, the rate of industrial zone with wastewater treatment system is very low. In some places, it only reaches 15 to 20%, such as provincial Vĩnh. Some industrial zones have built wastewater treatment system, but they hardly operate because to reduce their cost. Along the number of passings each day, there must be more than 111,000 cubic meters of the wastewater from 56 industrial parks and export processing zones in operation, while only 21 zones have centralized wastewater treatment system. The rest are charging directly into the water sources, which causes a negative impact on the water quality of the receiving source. In some cases, the operation of factories in industrial zones has damaged the environment, disrupting irrigation system, creating drought and flooded fields and polluted irrigation water, hindering the economic development, socio-economic impact, as in the case of the Formosa factory happened in 2016. The number of dead seafood washes ashore is estimated at 100 tons up to 7,600 fishing boats, and nearly 41,000 people have been directly affected. Over the 176,000 dependents were affected due to the inability to fish within the range of up to 20 nautical miles, up to 90% of lower powered boats, and nearly 4,000 engineering ships were ashore. Coastal exploration lost about 1,600 tons per month.
Vietnamese farmers have six most suffering compared to other classes in society. First, it is most exposed to natural disasters due to the high risk of natural impacts. Secondly, to enjoy at least public services such as transport and social-cultural communication. Thirdly, having at least the state care of education and health, so the rate of low literacy and sickness is the highest. Fourth, due to low labor productivity and lack of capital, lack of market information, and lack of training to become professional farmers, they are always at a disadvantage, always struggling in a vicious cycle of good season, devaluation and price, loss of crops. Fifth, although they do not have enough food to eat, they pay the taxes fully and enthusiastically, and at the same time serve the national food security. Sixth, injustice to farmers. For example, city people can build roads to their doors, and they even occupy the sidewalks made by the state, while farmers have to pay for rural roads themselves commune. If there are some places priority, it is also the state and the people to do together. Ask farmers, 100% sure they do not want their children to be farmers, but they have to do it because there is no other way. And many people have left their fields, went to work as workers in factories because of misery and poverty. Third, ethnic minorities and our people still face poverty and hunger in some vulnerable areas and remote areas due to harsh living environment and difficulties due to lack of access to education and communication, information, and agricultural intellectuals.
Food production is all about preparing food, in which raw materials are converted into ready-made foods. Products for human use, either in the home or in the food processing industries. Its process comprises scientific approaches. Food production has many sections, and it starts with basic things like cleaning, packing, sorting, preparing, and adding ingredients in correct proportions, presented, and so on. Food production is also an important aspect of food security because production is an element in ensuring the food availability appear in food security.
Regarding food production in Vietnam, it has been several changes around the natural environment, part of it negatively affected by them, consisting of the re-awareness and non-re-awareness events happening from the north to the south of Vietnam. From the beginning of 2020, in some northern provinces like Yên Bái, Nghệ An, Quảng Bình, Lai Châu, thunderstorms continually have occurred. Compared to the law of climate, this is considered an abnormal weather phenomenon causing heavy property damage to people, in which agricultural production is seriously affected. About the earthquake, they are manifest in the northern region of Vietnam, with EY, Dien Bien, Cao Bằng, Mường Lai, it had more earthquakes have occurred than the other region, and it caused damage to the roads, houses, public infrastructure. Like my friend Trang she have introduced briefly about the flood during the raining in typhoon season. The storm rainfall in the upper basin of the Mekong caused flood disaster over wide areas in the Mekong Delta. About the last natural environment that affect to us, it is a saltwater intrusion. A few months ago, this is a hot issue since many famous people they call for donation to people who are affected by it. The rainfall across the Mekong River basin is very low because it is affected by the El Nino phenomenon. This because the low rainfall makes the water pouring downstream much, and the Mekong Delta, including Contra City and the 12 province, is strongly affected by them.
Why is Vietnam cancer rate among the highest in the world? The overuse of toxic chemical in agriculture is one of the reasons why. So the overuse of toxic chemical has been a major problem in food production. According to experts, whilst Vietnam agriculture sector is targeted by the government to clean and safe production to serve the domestic consumer and export, the permission for import and use pesticides show the necessity in the management of chemical use. From the first quarter of 2020, the General Department of Customs announced that Vietnam has imported over $308 million of pesticide and raw material for the production of this item. For comparison, in the same period, Vietnam has imported $249 million in gasoline. That means our country has imported more pesticide than gasoline. In a report 3 years ago, the World Bank confirmed that up to 50 and to 60% of rice farmers use pesticide at a rate exceeding the recommended level. 38 to 70 of farmers in the southern provinces use pesticide at the rate exceeding the recommended level. According to the organization, about 20% of farmers use pesticide in a violation of current regulation. Using imported illegal pesticide or ban or even cultivate pesticides. Most of the vegetable fields use pesticide to treat leaf-eating pests, leaflets, even though the packaging written was extremely toxic, highly poisonous, and dangerous.
How does Vietnam warrant food security in the country? Prime Minister has promulgated the action plan for the implementation about the warrant national food security until 2030. The plan clearly states, based on the assigned functions, missions, and rights of state management ministries, ministerial-level agencies, government-attached agencies, people committees of provinces and centrally run cities, direction, organized and synchronous and effective elimination of missions and tasks according to the announcement of Prime Minister, in which following these 8 main missions. First, to thoroughly grasp and raise awareness of national food security in the new situation and consider our national food security as a particularly important mission in the process of national industrialization and modernization. Reorganize production, promote production mechanization and automation associated with food processing and consumption in the direction of strengthening cooperation and linking concentrated and large-scale production, improve the people's ability and access to safe and nutritious food. Continue to perfect institutions and policies to ensure national food security, improve mechanisms and policies on land investment, finance, credit, and trade to provide adequate support to farmers, localities, and rice production and business enterprises, improve the quality of human resources and the level of scientific and technological research, application, and transfer in the agriculture sector, to raise the effectiveness and efficiency of the state management over food security, complete the system and linkage on functions, duties, and authorities in food security authorities, manage and efficiently use natural resources, protect the environment, adapt to the climate, and prevent natural disaster. Finally, strengthen international cooperation, especially in the regional, global, and national fields to improve competitiveness and increase the value of food and food exports.
Okay, so what have been done in local to ensure food security? For more specifically in the south of Vietnam in recent years, climate change like drought, sea level rise, lack of fresh water, and soil erosion have negative impacts on the Mekong River Delta. That requires localities in the Mekong River Delta should have a plan to change production method with livestock, have plans to reduce the harmful effects of natural disaster. Over the past time, provinces such as Tiền Giang, Long An, Bến Tre, Vĩnh Long, Hậu Giang have introduced breeding and cultivation model highly adaptable to dry and salty areas. That's the model of growing dragon fruits. Citrus lemon, pineapple, sugarcane, and coconut are typically suitable for salty areas, such as the model of raising saltwater ducks, gold rabbits have broad economic benefit to the farmer.
In conclusion, Vietnam is a rapidly developing economy with remarkable progress in food production. However, in these past years, increase in global commodity price, including food products, have posed a new set of challenges to Vietnam's ability to maintain a path of sustainable growth. Given that Vietnam is the net exporter of food, particularly rice, it might be expected that the country would benefit from higher international price. However, less than half of Vietnamese households are net sellers of food, and many net buyers of food have not seen their incomes increase in the same proportion as food price. Distinct local and regional differences and the market volatility are evident in the current situation. And in addition, Vietnam is affected by 6 or 7 natural disasters, for example, typhoons and floods, annually, which destroy crops and food resources, as well as seize out fertilizers and other resources in vulnerable areas. This requires strategies and contingency plans for disaster risk reduction and the damage control at the provincial and local levels.